Welcome back, everyone. This is Dr. Rock. This tutorial is going to be exclusively devoted to the adaptive learning portion of this class. So the first tutorial basically went over the online environment, how to access different parts of the online course. But again, this is going to be exclusive to adaptive learning. As a reminder, the adaptive learning section of this course is worth a total of 193 out of 1,000 points. While it is possible to pass this class with a C, I guess a B if you got a perfect score on all of the quizzes and the exams, an A would not be possible. So this is a very important portion of the class. Let me also very quickly pull up the syllabus, which goes over the grading in much more detail. That's a good place to start. So if you scroll down to beginning on page 10, we're going to start there. This is how adaptive learning is graded. So again, this component is worth a total of 193 points for the semester. Students should estimate spending an average of 3.5 to 4 hours per week in this portion of the course. If students do not invest time in this portion of the course every week throughout the entire semester, it is unlikely that they will be able to achieve the levels required to successfully complete this portion of the course, and will negatively affect your grade. This component is not graded until the end of the semester. It can't be graded because you need all semester in order to reach all required mastery levels. It is your responsibility to track your progress and make adjustments if necessary in the amount of time invested. Moving on to page 11 and 12. This basically goes over every chapter, every section, and the level of mastery that is required. We'll probably go back to this after I show you the actual part of the course. I think it'll make more sense. But what you'll notice is that all of the sections in chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 must meet a mastery level of a 3. In the third column, it says level 3 is worth 20 points each. You will receive no partial credit for earning levels under a 3. Chapters 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, all of the subsections within those chapters require you to have a mastery level of 2. Each of these chapters is worth a total of 12.5 points. No partial credit will be given for a level achieved under a level of 2. Chapters 11 through 15 require you only to have a mastery level of 1. Each one of these chapters is worth 6.1 points, no partial credit for achieving a level under 1. And you'll notice that the due dates for this section, again, they're all the same. It's the last day of this course. Why? Because it will take you 15 weeks to achieve these levels. Okay, so again, we'll probably go back to that at some point, but let me go ahead and actually show you this course component. So to get here, again, you're going to click on this tab, the Evolve tab, keeping in mind that you will need your course ID number as well as your access code to access this part of the course. Okay, and as discussed in the first tutorial, my screen is going to look a little bit different than yours. Again, you probably don't have access to the things written in yellow that you can see on my screen, but you can see everything that's written in blue. So again, if we just start, let me close this up here. And get it back to the way that it probably looks for you. Okay, so you can access adaptive learning for each chapter or each module within the module. So for example, if we I'm going to click on Module 2 because I don't think that I have started any adaptive learning, and I would like you to see it from the very beginning before you've actually accessed anything. So bear with me here for just a minute. Within Module 2, I'm going to click on Elsevier Adaptive Learning. And I'm going to hope that I haven't gone in here before, but we'll see. You'll see that these are all of the different subsections for Chapter 2's Adaptive Learning. Let's start with Section 2.1. Oh, I've already started this section. All right, let me try, bear with me. Let me just click on another one. Hopefully I haven't opened this. Great. So when you enter adaptive learning for the very first time, you're going to see a screen that starts like this. It's going to ask you, for the time that you have right now, do you want to start by building 5 memories or 10? It doesn't matter what you choose because you're going to have to learn all of them eventually to get credit. It just really depends on how much time and how much concentration and focus you have at any given time. So let's say I don't have very long. I'm going to start with 5 memories, and then let's start learning.
Anesthesiologist.
You can think about this course component just like you would flashcards. So back in the olden days when I was young and I was a student, that's one of the tools that I used to memorize words and definitions, especially vocabulary words. You can think about this course component in that way. You will have the option of having the word repeated if you didn't catch it the first time.
Anesthesiologist.
Okay, and it's basically going to give you a word and a definition. Once you understand or once you feel like you've learned that word, you can click Got it.
Anesthetic.
Okay, same thing. Once you feel like you've learned that word, click Got it.
Appendectomy.
Not every word has an audio component.
Biopsy.
Okay, so once they give you the word and the definition one time through, so we just went through 5 words, now it's going to test your knowledge. This, and this will make more sense as we go on. Do you know the answer to this question? If so, you're going to click Know It. And then you're going to click the correct answer.
Anesthetic.
Next.
Anesthesiologist.
Click it if you know it. Okay, next.
Biopsy. Anesthesiologist. Appendectomy. Anesthetic.
Now, that's just an example of what that's going to look like. What if you come across this question and you think, oh, I forget it, I don't remember it? Well, you can click Don't Know It.
Appendectomy.
And it will remind you. All right, so I've just completed 5 memories. Each individual memory shows up as a little circle. And this is a great way to kind of get a visual snapshot of where you are. Remember, chapter 2 requires a mastery level of 3, which is all the way over here. Please do not pay any attention to the standard. It says set goals. Everything is listed as 2. I can't change that as your instructor. That's part of the Cerigo program. I can't change that. So don't let that confuse you. Go by the syllabus. Always go by the syllabus. So anyway, each of these memories, they will move to the right, or they will move up the level of mastery the more times you answer them correctly, time and time and time and time again. This program is built on neuroscience research based on how short-term and long-term memories are formed. So it takes a lot of repetition. Let's keep going in this module so I can give you a taste of a little bit more. So let's learn another 5.
Epidemiologist. Epidemiology.
Intensivist.
Internist.
Intensivist.
Epidemiologist. Epidemiology. Internist.
All right. So again, when you first enter a chapter section for the very first time, this is what you should see. You should start seeing more and more little dots. Now I have a lot of dots here, even though they're stacked on top of each other. But the more times you re-enter into this section and you practice those words, it's just like a flashcard. The dots will start moving this general direction over to the right. And for this particular chapter, you want to get each section, okay, so memories of every section, they have to average a level 3. And I think I'll make that, that'll make more sense too. We will check out a different portion of the course. Okay, so after you have already accessed adaptive learning for the very first time in a section, I'll show you what that looks like also. So I'm going to go back to Module 1 into adaptive learning. There are 4 sections in Chapter 1. Some have fewer, some have more subsections. Okay, so again, I've already accessed this before. So you can see some of my memories are down here in the new category. Some I've moved up to level 1. Okay, so that's what your screen will look like. And you'll want to track your progress. Again, it is very important that you understand that each section of each chapter, the average needs to reach the mastery level required in the syllabus for you to get your points. There's no partial credit, so you need to make sure that, that each section reaches the mastery level. Okay, so in every module, Module 1, Module 2, all the way down to 15, those you can access the adaptive learning the same way. You're going to go into each module and click on the adaptive learning button, and it will take you to the Cerigo website. Same thing here, Chapter 2, adaptive learning. Module 3, adaptive learning. Module 4, adaptive learning, so on and so forth. Okay, let me also review this PowerPoint with you. This may give you some additional helpful information. I really want to emphasize the importance of time investment. This is not a hard course by any stretch. This is not rocket science, but it really is about good, efficient time management and keeping up with your work. You need to plan to spend about 3.5 hours every week in the adaptive learning portion of the course. That being said, you need to break that up into smaller chunks of time most days of the week. Again, making time for this part of the course, or this course in general, is really the biggest challenge that students report. I suggest that you schedule this just like you would any class or any other obligation. Keep in mind, again, that this online course is recording you every time you log into this. So I can see, this is an example taken from a previous semester. So I can see students that log in 170 times and end up with, you know, an A in the course versus students that log into the course twice and do not fare nearly as well. And then if I click on session details, it tells me every single page that you have viewed, how many memories you have reviewed, whether you were in there doing a quiz, doing an exam, doing adaptive learning, doing a case study that's not gradable, so on and so forth. So it is nice in that it does verify how much time investment you are putting forth in the course. So it measures logins, first login, last login, and the number of hours that you have spent in the course since day one. So I get a lot of questions early in the semester, probably the first half of the semester, about, well, what's my grade in adaptive learning? And that's a really hard question for me to answer because it's not possible for me to grade this until the end of the semester. Why? Because it will take you 15 weeks to reach the set mastery levels if you keep investing the appropriate amount of time. Okay, so you cannot possibly reach a mastery level 3 in all the sections of chapter 1 the first month of this course. It's not going to happen. The program won't allow you to do that. It builds and it progresses. So it's impossible to cram this section. I can't tell you how many students I have who are panic-stricken in the last 4 to 6 weeks of every semester saying, I know that you said to invest time, but I just didn't make time, and do you think I could do it in 6 weeks? And my answer is no, it's not going to be possible, at least not in chapters 1 through 10. It might be possible in chapters 11 to 15, but you really will be putting yourself at a significant disadvantage if you do not keep up with this section of the course. Okay, so what exactly should you be seeing at about the 1/3 through the semester point? Well, this is a screenshot of probably where some of your memories should be. This is a pretty good start. Maybe a little on the low end, but you can see that the sections in chapters 1, 2, and mainly 3 are definitely moving up in the level of mastery, and we're seeing some progression. So this is a good start. How about after about 2/3 of the semester? Well, you'll see that there are a lot more sections that are accounted for, and that, again, we're starting to move up to the more appropriate levels of mastery. And towards the end of the course, certainly you should see that each chapter subsection's dot should be accounted for and should be in the correct mastery level. So again, chapters 1 through 5 require a level 3. Chapters 6 through 10 require a level 2. Chapters 1 through 15 require a level 1. Okay, I also cannot emphasize this enough. This is another big sticking point and another complaint that I get a lot from students who are delayed in getting started or don't keep up with this section. They oftentimes say, well, I got 2 sections up to the mastery level, but I didn't have time to do the other sections. So why can't I get partial credit? Well, because there is no partial credit. The syllabus states that in order to earn chapter points, each section has to reach the required mastery level. And that is the standard. So again, no partial credit is available. In order to earn chapter points, every chapter section must meet the mastery level assigned. And let me give you some examples of this. And I know this is small, but please bear with me. There are 4 sections to chapter 1 or module 1, okay? So each section has to meet the required level for me to give you 20 points. So in looking at section 1.1 in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see that this person, pink is your goal, where you stand currently. You'll see that section 1.1 is a 3.9. You'll see that chapter 1.2 is a 3.8. Chapter 1.3 reached, I think that says a 3.7, 3 point something. And chapter 1.4, this student got a 3.8. So the required mastery level for chapter 1 is a level 3. Each of these sections met the required mastery level. This student earned 20 points for module or chapter 1. Okay, let's look at another example. All right, this is example 2, and this is chapter 8. Chapter 8 has 5 sections. The required mastery level for chapter or module 8 is a mastery level of 2. So in looking at where this student achieved in section 8.1, and again, I'm sorry this is so hard to see, but it's hard to fit everything in one screen to make it make sense. So module or chapter 8.1, the student achieved a 1.1. In section 8.2, the student achieved a 1.3. In section 8.3, the student achieved a 0.7. In chapter 8.4, the student achieved a 0.4. And in 8.5, the student achieved a 0.2. This chapter is worth 12.5 points. The student would get a 0 for chapter 8 because each of these sections does not meet the mastery level of 2 that is required. Let us take a third look, and let's look at chapter 15. The mastery level required for chapter 15 is level 1. That's all that is required. There are 4 sections of chapter 15. Here in 15.1, the student achieved a 3.1. In 15.2, the student achieved a 3.3. In 15.3, the student achieved a 3.1. And in 15.4, the student achieved a 3.1. All very much exceeded the set mastery level of 1. So this student would earn a total of 6.1 points for chapter 15. And again, questions about adaptive learning, if it's a general question, please make sure that you're asking in the discussion board. But if you have a question of a personal nature, please email, or you can schedule an office visit with me. That being said, for the very last portion of this tutorial, what I want to show you is what the grading process looks like at the very, very end of the semester. Now, I have positioned what you're able to see to exclude actual student names. Above the top of your screen, I am showing the section, the particular chapter and subsection I'm looking at, but also the student's name. And in order to avoid a confidentiality breach, I had to eliminate that portion from what you're able to view. So at the very end of the semester, what I do is I sit down with my little worksheet, and I can actually show you what that looks like. Okay, this is the little worksheet that I use to keep track of points for each chapter at the very end of the semester. So I will type your name here. And then just as a reminder to me, the required mastery levels, the points available, and then I'm going to put your points over here in this column. But this is a very easy worksheet that I use so that if there's any discrepancy or any question, it's easy to figure out where the points are gained and where the points are lost. I email this to every student when I send to you your final grade, just in case you do want to double check or make sure that my calculations are accurate. But again, you won't see this until it's time for final grading. All right, and so this is what I do. I have my grading worksheet on one screen, and then on the other screen, what I'm doing is I'm zipping through each and every subsection of every single chapter. So for example, I know you can't see this, but I'm starting with chapter 1, and I'm going to look at the 4 sections of chapter 1. The current screen is 1.1. The student achieved a 3.4. We're off to a good start. Let's look at chapter 1.2. Student achieved 3.3. Great. Let's check 1.3. Wonderful. We're still at a 3. And let's look at chapter 1.4, a 3.2. So I would stop scrolling through their progress. I would go over to my worksheet and I would indicate 20 points for chapter 1. This student has met a mastery level of 3 for each of the sections for chapter 1. Let me do one other example with you, and let me look at chapter 2. There are 8 sections for chapter 2, also worth 20 points. So let's take a look at section 2.1. We have a 3.2, great so far. Chapter 2.2 is a 3.4, excellent. 2.3 is a 3.1, great. 2.4 is a 3.2, great. 2.5 is a 3.2, that's wonderful. 2.6, still meeting that level of a 3, great job. Chapter 2.7 is a 3.1, and chapter 2.8 is a 3.1. So I would stop here again and go back to my worksheet and indicate that this student has earned 20 points for chapter 2. So that's what I do at the end of every semester for all 70 of you. I go through each section of each chapter so that I know whether or not to award points. Again, each section, not every memory, not every individual memory, but it's the average. It's where your average is. This dotted line shows up for each chapter subsection that matters. That will be the determining factor. For chapter 2, if one of those sections didn't achieve mastery level 3, then there would be no points awarded. Again, no partial credit. So it's important that if you pursue a chapter and you're going to put that time and effort into it, make sure that you invest ample time in each of those sections to get your levels up. Now, the higher the mastery level, the more time you have to invest. It doesn't take long to reach a level 1. That's why chapters 11 through 15 are, you don't have a lot of time at that point in the semester, so you can't possibly get a higher level. So it's all meant to be progressive and dependent on which chapter we're reviewing at what point in time in the semester. All right. Well, I think that about covers it in less than 30 minutes. I hope that you have found this helpful. I hope it hasn't been too confusing. If it's been a little confusing, what I would suggest is waiting a couple of weeks and then going back to re-watch this again. And you may also want to re-watch it around midterm and maybe even towards the final the final part of the course also, just as a reminder of how I grade this portion, the importance of paying attention to each section in each chapter, and also just to refresh this material. Okay, once again, best of luck to all of you.